I never thought I'd be the kind of person who'd plot revenge. I used to believe that if someone hurt you, you just moved on, healed, and found peace. But that was before Amber. Amber wasn't just my girlfriend. She was my anchor, my calm in chaos, my reason to believe in love again after years of being disappointed. We met when I was 27, working long hours as a systems analyst in a small IT company. She worked across the street at a cafe where I used to grab my morning coffee. The first time she smiled at me, I swear it felt like the city noise faded out. She wasn't just beautiful. She was warm, curious, alive. It started with coffee orders and jokes about caffeine addictions. Then came lunches, late-night talks, and eventually love. Real love, or at least I thought it was. For 18 months, Amber and I built a life that looked perfect from the outside. We shared an apartment, adopted a rescue cat named Luna, and spent weekends watching old movies or driving to the lake. My friends would say I'd finally mellowed out, that she was good for me. And for a long time, I believed them. Until I started noticing the small lies. It began with little things, texts she'd delete, calls she'd step outside to answer, stories that didn't quite line up. At first, I ignored it. Love makes you stupid like that. I told myself she just needed privacy, that maybe I was overthinking. But one night, when she came home late smelling like cologne that definitely wasn't mine, I asked, "Where were you?" She laughed, a little too quickly. "Just drinks with coworkers, babe. Don't be paranoid." Something in her tone made my stomach drop. That night, after she fell asleep, I checked her phone. I know it's wrong, but when your gut screams at you long enough, you start listening. I didn't find a name or a message that spelled it out, but there were enough half-deleted threads and midnight notifications to tell me everything I needed to know. Amber was seeing someone else. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to be sure. So I waited. For weeks, I played dumb, watched her patterns, noted every lie. Every time she said she was staying late, I'd check her location. She wasn't at work. Once, I even saw her car parked outside a bar across town. I sat in my own car for 20 minutes that night, staring at that neon sign, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't go in. I couldn't, because a part of me still hoped I was wrong. Then came the night everything shattered. She came home close to midnight, tipsy and glowing. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to scroll through my phone. She kissed my forehead casually, as if everything was normal. I asked quietly, "So who's Ethan?" Her body froze. Just a small flicker, but enough. "What?" she said, trying to sound confused. "The guy who keeps texting you," I said. "The one whose messages you keep deleting." She went silent for a moment, then exhaled sharply. "You went to my phone?" I didn't answer. "That's messed up, Daniel," she said, shaking her head. "You think you're some hero? You're just bitter. You couldn't handle a little uncertainty." My voice cracked when I said, "Uncertainty is when you don't know how someone feels. Lying is when you pretend." She didn't say anything after that, just stood there, her lips trembling slightly, as if she wanted to fight back, but didn't have the energy. Finally, she whispered, "So that's it? 18 months, just gone?" I nodded. "Yeah, Amber, that's it." She left the next morning. No tears, no apologies. Just packed her things, petted Luna once, and walked out. For weeks, I felt empty, like I was sleepwalking through my own life. Work didn't matter. Food didn't taste like anything. Even Luna would stare at the door, waiting for her to come back. But then, one night, I saw her again. I was at a friend's birthday dinner downtown, trying to force a smile when I heard her laugh. That same bright, effortless laugh I'd once loved. I turned, and there she was, Amber, sitting at a nearby table. With him, Ethan. He was older than me, flashier, wearing a watch that probably cost more than my rent. His hand was on her thigh, and she was looking at him the way she used to look at me. Something in me snapped that night. Not the kind of anger that makes you yell or throw things. No, this was quieter, colder, the kind of anger that simmers until it finds direction. That's when I decided I wasn't going to just move on. She'd taken 18 months of my life and left me hollow, but she'd also underestimated me. I wasn't some fool she could walk over and forget. If she wanted to play games, I was about to rewrite the rules. Because revenge, when it's earned, isn't just about payback. It's about restoration. And I was about to get mine. The night I saw Amber with Ethan, something inside me shifted forever. It wasn't jealousy anymore. It was clarity, the kind that burns through confusion and leaves only purpose behind. I didn't go up to her that night. I didn't make a scene. That's what she would have expected. An emotional, broken version of me. But no, I smiled, paid my bill, and walked out. Because from that moment, I stopped being her past. I started becoming her consequence. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, planning. Revenge isn't about rage. It's about precision, about knowing exactly where to strike. So the other person feels every ounce of what they put you through. Amber had always cared about appearances. She craved validation like oxygen, from friends, from coworkers, from strangers online. She lived for the perfect Instagram life, the perfect boyfriend, the perfect smile, the perfect lie. So I decided to take away her favorite thing, her image. A few weeks later, I started small. Amber worked in marketing for a boutique clothing brand, trendy, image-driven, and built around authentic connection. Funny, right? The queen of pretending, working for a company that sold authenticity. I created a fake profile, a woman named Sophie Rivers, with an artsy background and a believable portfolio. I followed her company's Instagram, commented thoughtfully on posts, even joined a few marketing groups she was active in. Within 2 weeks, she followed me back. Amber never could resist admiration. From there, it was easy. Sophie became her online friend. Someone who shared memes about toxic exes, talked about creative burnout, and slowly earned her trust. Through that, I learned everything I needed, that her relationship with Ethan wasn't as glamorous as it looked, that she'd recently been promoted, and that she was pitching a big campaign that could make or break her reputation at work. Perfect. Meanwhile, in real life, I focused on my own glow-up. I'd always been the quiet, dependable guy, the one who worked hard and never caused trouble. But now, I poured every ounce of pain into progress. I hit the gym. I upgraded my wardrobe. I started saying yes to after-work drinks, to networking events, to life. It wasn't fake. It was transformation. And every time I saw my reflection looking sharper, calmer, stronger, I thought, this is a man she didn't think I could become. Then came the night I ran into her again. It was at a mutual friend's engagement party. I hadn't planned to go, but fate has a dark sense of humor. She walked in, wearing a red dress that could make anyone stop breathing for a second. But I didn't. I just watched her glance around until her eyes met mine. The flicker of surprise on her face was everything. "Daniel," she said, with that half smile that used to melt me. "Wow, you look different." "Better?" I said, keeping my tone casual. She laughed lightly. I didn't say that, but her eyes did. I didn't stay long, just enough to let her feel that uncomfortable mix of nostalgia and curiosity. That's how you get inside someone's head. Not by fighting, by making them wonder. Over the next month, I kept my plan moving quietly. Using Sophie's account, I got close to several people at her office, designers, interns, even her project manager. They all adored Sophie's charm and ideas. Eventually, Sophie applied for a freelance collaboration on their new campaign, the same campaign Amber was leading, and Amber vouched for her. Through that collaboration, I got access to drafts, timelines, and, most importantly, their internal communications. I didn't expose anything right away. I just watched, collected screenshots, saved receipts. Then one Friday night, I found what I needed. Amber had plagiarized part of her campaign pitch. She borrowed heavily from another brand's older concept, something most people wouldn't notice. But I did, because Sophie was the one helping her finalize the presentation. I waited until the week of her big pitch meeting. Then, the night before, Sophie sent an anonymous tip to the company's directors, attaching evidence of plagiarism, fake timestamped drafts, and an apologetic note that said, "I don't want to cause trouble, But as someone who values honesty in creative work, I couldn't stay silent knowing someone might present this as their own. The next morning, I logged in to watch the chaos unfold. Amber's profile went private. Her company's LinkedIn page went silent. And by noon, word spread in every professional circle she'd once used for validation. Amber Scott had been caught stealing work. I didn't feel joy at first, just silence, the kind that comes after a storm, when the wind dies and all that's left is the sound of everything falling apart. Later that night, I got a text. "Amber, was this you?" I stared at the screen. I could have ignored it. I could have denied it. But no, I wanted her to know. "Me. Consider closure." There was a long pause before she replied. "Amber, you think you won? You're just bitter." I smiled. "Me? No. I just stopped losing." But here's the thing about revenge. It never ends neatly. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment. I opened the door and froze. She looked nothing like the confident woman I'd known. Her eyes were swollen, her voice small. "Can we talk?" she said. I let her in, not because I wanted to, but because I wanted to see how far she'd fallen. She sat on my couch, fidgeting with her sleeves. "You got what you wanted. I lost my job. Ethan dumped me. Everyone's talking about me like I'm a fraud." "Maybe stop being one," I said coldly. Tears welled in her eyes. "I loved you, Daniel. I just messed up." "You didn't mess up, Amber," I said. "You lied. Repeatedly. There's a difference." She stood up, anger flashing through her tears. "You think you're clean? You think revenge makes you better than me?" I didn't answer, because maybe she was right. Maybe revenge doesn't make you better, but it sure as hell makes you feel alive again. She left without another word. That was the last time I saw her in person. Weeks passed. The company issued a formal statement. Amber disappeared offline, and I thought that was the end of it. But karma's strange. It doesn't just punish the guilty. It tests the avenger too. One night, as I was getting ready for bed, I saw a new email in my inbox. Subject: "You don't know everything." The message had no name, just one line. "If you think Amber was the only one lying, you might want to check who Ethan really is." Attached was a photo of Ethan shaking hands with someone from my company, someone I thought was a friend. That email sat in my inbox like a live grenade. I stared at it for a long time, my heart pounding, reading that one line over and over. "If you think Amber was the only one lying, you might want to check who Ethan really is." At first, I thought it was just another troll, someone stirring the pot. But that photo attached, that changed everything. Ethan was shaking hands with Mark Benson, my direct supervisor, the same guy who'd once told me I was like family to the company. They were standing in front of a banner for a startup I'd never heard of, CoreLink Systems. And right there, in small print at the bottom, strategic partners with NeuraEdge Technologies. NeuraEdge, my company. I opened a private browser and searched everything I could about CoreLink. It didn't take long before the connections started lighting up like fireworks. CoreLink was a small but growing tech consultancy. 6 months ago, they'd signed a partnership deal with NeuraEdge to share data on AI workflow automation, the exact project I've been leading. And guess who was listed as CoreLink's project manager? Ethan Walsh, the same Ethan who'd been seeing Amber. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't be. Over the next few days, I dug deeper. I pulled up company memos, email threads, and share drives. Slowly, the puzzle pieces fell into place. About 3 months before Amber and I broke up, right around when she started getting distant, NeuraEdge had open internal talks about outsourcing parts of our data analytics to a partner firm. That firm turned out to be CoreLink, the same firm where Ethan had just been hired. The same time Amber started lying. My stomach twisted. Had she been part of this? I remembered how she used to ask little questions, things that seemed harmless at the time. "So what's your team working on now?" Or, "How does your data process handle user privacy?" She'd said it was just curiosity. Now I wasn't so sure. That night, I called one of my old co-workers, Brian, the only person I trusted. "Hey, man," I said quietly, "do you remember that CoreLink partnership thing?" "Yeah," he said. Weird timing, right? Mark pushed it through fast. Why? Because Ethan Walsh, the guy Amber left me for, works there. There was a pause. You're kidding. I wish I was. Brian sighed. That's sketchy. You think they used you? I don't know. I said, though I did. I knew exactly what it felt like. To realize you weren't just betrayed emotionally, but professionally too. He hesitated before saying, you might want to check your project archive. I heard some of your prototype code was flagged for similarity concerns last week. My blood ran cold. After hanging up, I logged into the company server. And there it was, a report stating that certain algorithmic components from my project had been replicated by CoreLink during a joint test. Same structure, same logic, practically copy-pasted. Except now, CoreLink owned the intellectual property rights, because Mark had signed the deal transferring ownership months ago, right around when Amber was still living with me. That's when everything clicked. Amber hadn't just cheated. She'd been planted. The next morning, I called Mark's office. Daniel, good to hear from you, he said, voice dripping with fake warmth. I want to talk about the CoreLink project. I said. He chuckled. You're not still hung up on that, are you? It's old news. You should be proud. Your work helped set the foundation. My work was stolen. I snapped. There was a pause. Then, casually, that's a big accusation. Careful, Daniel. That tone, smug, dismissive. It reminded me of Ethan's smirk the night I saw him with Amber. And suddenly I understood everything. They'd used her to get close, to learn details, to undermine me from inside my own home. The breakup wasn't just emotional betrayal. It was strategic sabotage. And now my ex-girlfriend, my boss, and her new lover were all part of it. I didn't rage. I didn't scream. I went quiet, because silence is where real revenge begins. That night, I reopened Sophie's fake profile, the one I'd used to ruin Amber's job. I built another layer of that identity, this time with corporate credibility. Professional headshots, fake LinkedIn endorsements, fake past clients. Then I started connecting with CoreLink employees, especially the ones under Ethan. One of them, a junior analyst named Tara, accepted my request almost immediately. Over a few weeks, Sophie became her mentor figure, chatting late at night about career struggles and toxic bosses. Ethan's name came up often. Apparently, he wasn't the charming executive he pretended to be. He took credit for his team's work, manipulated data, and had a habit of getting close to women he supervised. Classic. So I gave Tara an idea. Through subtle messages, I guided her to gather proof of Ethan's misconduct. Voice clips, screenshots, meeting notes. She thought she was collecting it to protect herself. In reality, she was building the evidence I needed. By the end of the month, I had a full dossier. Falsified performance metrics, data tampering, and HR violations that would bury him. I waited for the perfect moment. It came sooner than expected. NeuroEdge and CoreLink announced a joint investors dinner to celebrate their successful partnership. Both companies' key people would attend, including Mark, Ethan, and several investors whose money depended on that project's image. I showed up, not as Daniel, as Sophie. A blonde wig, glasses, a well-fitted navy suit, and the confidence of someone who belonged. It wasn't hard. No one questioned someone who walks like they own the room. Halfway through dinner, I approached Mark's table, where Ethan sat, laughing too loudly. I placed a sealed envelope in front of one of the investors and said softly, "You'll want to read this before the press release tomorrow." Then I left. By morning, the firestorm had begun. An anonymous whistleblower had exposed CoreLink for falsifying project data and misreporting metrics to investors. Internal HR leaks revealed Ethan's inappropriate behavior. NeuroEdge immediately suspended its partnership. CoreLink stock tanked, and Mark was under investigation for insider favoritism. It was beautiful, but then a twist I didn't expect. That evening, as I sat on my balcony sipping a drink, I got a message from an unknown number. I know it was you. No name, no context, but I knew the tone. Amber. Before I could reply, another message appeared. You think you destroyed Ethan and Mark? They were never the real ones in charge. Then a photo, Amber, sitting across from someone in a cafe, a woman in her 40s, sharp suit, cold smile. Meet Claire, CoreLink's real founder, and she remembers you. That's where it got dangerous. Because Claire wasn't just anyone. She used to be a senior director at NeuroEdge, fired 2 years ago for ethical violations. And I was one of the people who reported her. Now, it made sense. This wasn't about love or cheating or some corporate rivalry. This was revenge for revenge. Amber, Ethan, Mark, they were all pieces. But Claire? She was a player. And I had just declared war on her, without knowing it. The photo of Amber sitting across from Claire stayed burned into my mind. It was too deliberate, a taunt, a warning, maybe even a challenge. I'd ruined Ethan. I'd exposed Mark. But if Claire was truly behind all this, then I'd only hit the pawns, not the queen. For days, I couldn't focus. Every time I tried to move on, the same question looped in my head. Why me? Claire had worked at NeuroEdge years ago. She was sharp, ruthless, and ambitious. The kind of person who could turn an idea into a billion-dollar pitch. But she'd also been reckless. She bent rules, falsified data, and when her shortcuts caught up with her, I was one of 3 employees who reported her. I thought she'd disappear after being fired. Apparently, she'd been busy plotting instead. Amber was her way back in. Ethan was her insider. Mark was her leverage. And I'd been the perfect fool in the middle. The next few weeks were eerily quiet. I went to work, kept my head down, acted normal. On the surface, everything looked like victory. CoreLink's investors pulled out. Ethan's reputation was ashes. Mark was on leave. And my inbox was full of cautious praise from higher-ups who suddenly remembered my name. But something fell off. One night, as I left the office, I noticed a silver sedan parked across the street. Engine running. Lights off. The same car was there again the next night. And the night after that, then the email started. Untraceable addresses. Subject lines like, "Do you miss her?" Or, "You shouldn't have crossed us." Each one contained some snippet of my personal life. Old photos of Amber and me. Copies of receipts from years ago. Even a screenshot of my bank login page from months prior. It was psychological warfare. And I knew exactly who was behind it. Claire wanted me rattled, so I stopped reacting. Instead, I started watching. I hired a friend of a friend, someone who did quiet work for corporate security. He helped me dig into CoreLink's shell companies. What he found made my skin crawl. CoreLink was just a front. Behind it were 3 more holding companies, all tracing back to one offshore account. The name on that account? CL Associates. Claire Loron. She'd built an empire of shadows, funneling stolen code, laundering data, and selling predictive models to firms overseas. NeuroEdge had been her original gold mine before she got caught. Now she was trying to build a clone of it, and she'd used me, my work, and my relationship to do it. Amber hadn't just ghosted me out of guilt. She'd been ordered to disappear before I could connect the dots. But the beautiful thing about people like Claire, they always underestimate the quiet ones. I still had all my project files from NeuroEdge, time-stamped, archived, and encrypted. I had documentation proving that my algorithms had been developed months before CoreLink's supposed original prototypes. And more importantly, I had the whistleblower credibility now that CoreLink was already under investigation. So I built one last spreadsheet, my deadliest one yet. Not just finances this time. Data lineage, code signatures, email headers, chain of custody for every piece of tech that CoreLink had developed. Every stolen line of my code. Every timestamp backup. Proof that their entire company was built on theft. Then I waited for the perfect moment to strike. It came during a tech conference in Chicago. One Claire was rumored to attend under a fake identity. The event was massive. Investors, journalists, industry leaders, all packed into one hall. And guess who was on the guest speaker list? Claire Loron, under the name Claire 11, representing a fast-growing AI startup. I didn't confront her. I didn't need to. I submitted my entire evidence package, encrypted, time-stamped, digitally signed, to 3 journalists I trusted, 1 federal investigator who specialized in tech fraud, and NeuroEdge's legal department. And then I did something petty but satisfying. I bought a ticket to the conference. sat in the very back row, and watched as Claire walked onto stage. 5 minutes into her speech, her phone started vibrating, then her assistant's. Then a murmur spread through the audience. By the time she reached slide 7, the projector screen behind her glitched and froze, replaced by a breaking news alert. CoreLink and affiliated companies under federal investigation for data theft and corporate espionage. Her face drained of color. People started whispering. Cameras turned. And I sat there, just another anonymous face in the crowd. While the empire she'd built on betrayal collapsed in real time. Ethan, arrested a week later for falsifying records. Mark, quietly resigned to avoid charges. Claire, facing a laundry list of indictments. Amber, that part came later. She showed up at my apartment one evening, months after everything. She looked thinner, worn down, eyes hollow. "Daniel," she said softly, "you ruined my life." I stared at her for a long time. Then, "You mean you ruined your life?" "I just stopped protecting you from the fallout." She flinched. "You don't understand. I never wanted to hurt you." "Claire, I held up a hand. "Save it. You made your choices. You could have told me the truth any time." Tears filled her eyes. "I was scared." "I was too," I said quietly. "Scared of losing you. Scared of being wrong about you. But you made sure both happened." She whispered, "Can't we start over?" I almost laughed. "Start over? Amber, you didn't just cheat. You helped destroy my career. You spied for someone who wanted to ruin me. There's no over after that." She swallowed hard, looking for something to say, then gave a small, broken nod. I thought you should know I'm sorry." I looked at her, really looked at her, the woman who'd once been my future, now just a ghost of it. "Then take that sorry," I said, "and start fixing your own mess." She left without another word, and for the first time in a long time, I felt nothing but peace. Weeks later, I got an email from a federal investigator thanking me for my cooperation. Newer Edge had officially cleared me of any liability, and even offered me a quiet promotion. I declined. Instead, I took a new job, smaller company, saner people, no politics. I still keep that final spreadsheet on a flash drive, not out of spite, out of memory, of what it cost to stay kind in a world full of users, of what it took to win without becoming them. Sometimes late at night, I still think about how it all began. One unanswered call, one missing person, 1 week before a wedding, and how that moment set everything in motion. But then I remember what came after. The clarity, the calm, the clean edges of self-respect rebuilt from ruin. Revenge didn't make me whole, but truth did. And that's enough, because now when I sleep, I don't dream about her. I dream about peace, earned, not given. And with that, our story comes to an end, but the real story begins with your thoughts. What would you do if you were in this situation? Let me know in the comments.